been attending team activities, but sitting out of practice while they negotiate the rookie contract there with the Bengals here. You heard them talk about it, the back and forth between the two sides there. Reportedly, they disagreed on certain clauses that were included in his rookie deal, and he's not the only defensive end he mentioned there. Their sack leader, and Trey Hendrickson, is also not in mandatory minicamp, so the Bengals have a DN problem, as Hendrickson, of course, also seeks a long-term deal. But talking about the rookie here, I want to bring in our lead NFL insider, Jonathan Jones. And this is a situation that's been kind of brewing since he was drafted there in Cincy. You heard him speaking there. That was earlier in the week, I believe Tuesday when they started. Your reaction to him now leaving camp in the middle of the week?
Well, it's an interesting tactic Shemar Stewart is taking. First of all, what he said in calling out the team and the ownership the other day, earlier in the week. That was unique. I was on Pushing the Pile with Kyle Long yesterday, and we sort of talked about how you have never heard a rookie call out ownership like that. So that, A, is unique. Now that he leaves mandatory minicamp, he is not under contract. He has not signed anything, and so he does not have to participate in anything. And in fact, similar to how when you go try to buy a car, like presence is power, right? Presence is leverage, as some of these dealerships like to tell you. One could argue that his presence there could be power, could allow him some help in these negotiations. Hey, I find this clause in this contract to be draconian, to be unfair, but I'm here, I want to be with my teammates, and I want you all to figure this out. So those are two things that are unique with this Shemar Stewart situation. Now, the clause itself is something that I don't know how many people have an issue with Shemar Stewart standing up for himself. The clause really kind of states that if you default on your contract, these are standard 4-year contracts with guarantees across the 4 years. If you default on it, and the contract will list the defaults, but if you get suspended for something, that not only will the guarantees void for the year in which that default takes place, but they void entirely across the life of the contract. So if you make a mistake over any point over 4 years, just to kind of dumb this down, the Bengals would have the ability to take away all of your guarantees for the life of your standard rookie contract. That is what he is not willing to sign. That is what a lot of folks are saying. Yeah, Shemar Stewart absolutely has a point. And this is new language with the Bengals. You go back to last year with their first-round pick. They didn't have that language with that first-round pick. They're changing it, which is well within the Cincinnati Bengals' rights. Employers have the option to change contract language from year to year. But Shemar Stewart also has the ability to say, hey, this is unfair, and I don't want to sign this.
JJ, I'm curious because now, usually we do have some of these guys maybe just waiting to the last minute, but actually leaving camp, we've never really seen that. Like you said, Kyle, can't even remember a player talking about a team and then leaving. Does this seem like this is something that's going to go beyond minicamp, maybe in a training camp into week 1?
So, again, I want to make clear, a lot of guys who are holding out, right? TJ Watt is under contract. James Cook is on his rookie deal. He's still showing up because he doesn't want to be fined because he wants to get a second contract. Shemar Stewart is as much an employee of the Cincinnati Bengals as I am right now, right? I mean, he is not signed at all. And so this is not a holdout or a hold in. This is I don't work for you, but I want to give you my services. Now, when you look at the Cincinnati Bengals, they are historically and relative to the rest of the NFL, they pinch some pennies. If you want to call them cheap, whatever sort of words you want to use with whatever connotation there is, that's who the Cincinnati Bengals are relative to the rest of the NFL. This is not at all the first contract dispute that Cincinnati Bengals and Mike Brown, the team owner, has ever dealt with. We know about Joe Burrow. We know about the protracted negotiations with T. Higgins and making Jamar Chase the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. But go back to Carson Palmer. Go back to Andre Smith. He was a first-round pick who held out. This was back almost more than a decade and a half ago, where he held out because they were not paying him. This was before the rookie wage scale. They were not paying him what someone drafted lower than him was getting paid by another team. And so this has gone on for the Bengals for a really long time. This is not the first time that it has happened with this organization. But it's the first time for this sort of new regime and for Zac Taylor. And so you don't have Trey Hendrickson, who led the NFL in sacks. Now you don't have Shemar Stewart out there getting involved in the program. And I think we all know about the jump from college to the pros, right? And maybe the gap is smallest for a pass rusher than anywhere else on the field. Maybe, perhaps. But the point being, he needs to be in that program. He knows it. The Bengals know it. And until they can figure something out, and this is... I don't think that you're going to bully the Bengals around and Mike Brown. I really don't. So I don't know how this winds up ending. I don't know that the Bengals budge. I don't know that Shemar Stewart budges. I don't know how long this goes on.
Earlier this weekend, especially from that sound there, he said he was 100% right in his case, Shemar Stewart. So clearly, to your point, it seems like he's not bending at all. But when it comes to the team as a whole, his head coach Zac Taylor speaking moments ago this morning, I want you to take a listen to this.
On Shemar, and why wasn't he?
Yeah, he wasn't here today, so we just focused on the guys that were here.
What are the conversations been like with him?
He and I have had positive conversations.
Did he communicate with you before he left? Or did you guys, was there a conversation between you?
He did. We've had good communication.
Zach, is it a big deal he's missed out on on-field reps?
I think for all the rookies, you'd like them to be on the field, but certainly there's things that happen over the course of an NFL career, and this is one of them right now. So he's been in the meetings. He's been positive in that way. He's been learning. He's been a good learner, and we look forward to getting him back on the field quickly.
This is obviously a first for you when it comes to a first-round pick. How have you navigated the water?
There's a first for everything. You know, it's every year you kind of learn something new in this position, and this is one of those things that the players have managed really well, and we keep the team moving. And when he jumps on the field, that'll be great for our team.
JJ, you've been around a lot of these coaches for many years, and you can probably read him better than I can, but you get a sense there that the mental reps, they're great, but you need them to be there in phase, actually in the playbook and actually hand-to-hand. If you're Zac Taylor, how does this set you back, knowing that Trey Hendrickson is not there as well?
Well, look, Zac Taylor has dealt with this for a number of years when it comes to contract disputes. This is the first time it has happened with an unsigned rookie, but he has dealt with this before, right? He's just coming off really 2 years of dealing with it with a T. Higgins. So he is no stranger to the idea of players being upset with their contract situation, and they are dealing with it with Trey Hendrickson as well. He also is not the money man, right? He's the head coach, and he kind of understands that, and so there's only so much that he can do. And then lastly, I would say about Zac Taylor, he's never one to give too much away in any press conference. So there is that. As it relates to what this team does without Trey Hendrickson and without Shemar Stewart right now, he actually talked about how Al Golden, the new defensive coordinator, said it's a little bit of a blessing. I'll emphasize a little bit because you're going to work other guys into the program, guys who wouldn't really see those sort of reps in May, in June, right? Because you have to get them in there. Maybe you get a defensive tackle who's lining up out wide or vice versa, right? And so there's some cross-training going on. Maybe you're bringing a linebacker down just a little bit more. Some things that ultimately, when you get to September and October, that you can pull out from your time in June without two of your pass rushers. And the last thing that I'll say about the Bengals, this is an organization that for the last 3 years has started 0-2, right? And some seasons they've started even worse than that, but at least 0-2 to begin the season each of the past 3 years. And you can chalk that up to preseason injuries, right? Joe Burrow has seemingly dealt with something almost every preseason. You can chalk that up to contract disputes, and certainly we are in the middle of a number of contract disputes with the Cincinnati Bengals right now. But they are changing things, Zac Taylor said. They are going to not have any joint practices. They're going to focus on themselves. He said, we are going to have practices earlier in the morning. Maybe that gets guys more ready for a noon, 1 o'clock kickoff, depending on where they are in the country and time zones. And so those are a couple of things that these Bengals are